Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Chase Friedman. Chase is a purpose-driven entrepreneur who serves purpose-driven thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and brands, guiding them towards sustainable business growth and social impact. As we navigate a world shifting from shareholder to stakeholder-driven capitalism, Chase's insights are more relevant than ever. He's here to share his journey, the power of brand blueprint, and how aligning profit with purpose doesn't just benefit the bottom line, but can change the world. So whether you're an inspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned leader looking to infuse more meaning into your business, this episode promises valuable lessons and inspiration. Hi, Chase. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am awesome, Sonia. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to start our conversation. So let's dive right in. Your
Uh,
career is a testament of combining business success and with meaningful purpose. Can you share the journey that led you to focus on purpose-driven entrepreneurship, and what was the pivotal moment that shaped this direction for you?
Great question. So it certainly didn't start that way. I've taken my bumps and bruises along the way. I consider myself, at least originally, a bit of an accidental entrepreneur. I come from a film and TV background as a writer, director, producer, got into branding and brand storytelling, and very quickly kind of snowballed into building a business and a brand myself. But when you're starting out a business, oftentimes you want to say yes and take on as many clients, as much work as you possibly can to kind of build up the base. But very quickly, you can begin to veer off course for why you got into it in the first place. Sort of letting your clients and the projects define you versus instead of vice versa. So not to say that it was inauthentic by any means. I enjoy a lot of the clients and work that I did over the years. But over time, I continued to kind of get further and further away from the stuff that brought me joy and that I felt was kind of the biggest impact I could have for my clients.
Mhm.
So that pivot point, unfortunately, came at a bit of a low point in my life and in my career. I certainly wouldn't recommend waiting until that stage, to kind of have that wake up call. But we went from really probably the peak of our business in terms of revenue and clients. And within a matter of probably about 3 months, the bottom fell out for a variety of reasons. Basically kind of brought to my knees as a business owner, dealing with some personal things, the tragic loss of a mentor and a best friend. It seemed like the world was kind of closing in.
Mhm.
Instead of folding up and closing up shop, um, I've always believed in resilience as a business owner. You have to have that resilience when things are tough. I had to dig deep and really unpack personally what was it that was going to give me joy and fulfillment in the work that I was doing. Some people are able to separate life and business. I find them very intertwined. And when you can do that in a healthy way, it's amazing.
Mhm.
And so it was something that came from a variety of different ways. My mentor used to he was a big pioneer, a big champion of Napoleon Hill, definite major purpose, um, a variety of sort of spiritual thought leadership, personal development exercises I did. I had to get real and really understand what was going to drive me and give me joy and have the most impact for my clients. And that really came down to not a niche, not a particular industry, but a quality of a type of business and a person that we would work with that I consider to be purpose driven.
Mhm.
Um, I look at my purpose as helping others find theirs, really, is kind of to put it as simply as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And that has continued to inform and direct my business from here on. Two hands on the wheel, feeling more empowered, driving the business to where I want to go and how I want to get there, working with aligned clientele, and being proud of the work that we're doing. I look at it as a mission and a mantra nowadays versus just a job.
Yeah, I like that. In your work, you emphasize the importance of a brand blueprint for achieving brand clarity and impactful marketing. Can you elaborate on the key components of this framework and how it helps businesses align profit with purpose?
Yeah. Look, I think of purpose as not only something that is internal and a why and a belief in what we stand for. I believe it is a strategic positioning for your business and your organization. It needs to be the North Star. And so a blueprint is really exactly that. It's the map. Back to Napoleon Hill, one of the great quotes is, "A man without a purpose is like a ship without a compass," right? You need to have that guiding light, that mission purpose of where you're going. And so what we do in a brand blueprint effectively is help develop and define that compelling why, that compelling purpose as the root of your overall brand identity and brand messaging. That's the first phase of it. It's three phases: brand discovery, getting real with yourself and your business, what you want to achieve, messaging, storytelling, positioning, strategy. From there, we get into identity. So how do we visually or showcase that story to our audience out in the world? Podcast, content, video, website, right? And then the third stage is growth. Now, how do we begin to amplify that message and that content on a broader level through a variety of digital marketing tactics? So I believe you got to measure twice, cut once. I've certainly made plenty of mistakes as a business owner, but when you have a clear roadmap and plan in place or a blueprint, it reduces overwhelm. It's
Mhm.
extremely empowering. And ideally, you want to get your entire team on board with it.
Yeah,
It's like in football, if you don't have a playbook and no one knows what play we're running, it's chaos.
yeah.
So I look at that as a way to build a brand and a business.
So earlier you talked about how you sort of hit bottom. Well, maybe you didn't hit bottom, you went all the way to the bottom.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Um, so has your blueprint and your strategy changed based on that experience, and how much of it was changed by that, sort of fail? It obviously had an impact on you, but I'm trying to understand how much of an impact did it actually have on your strategy based on that experience?
That's a great question. It had a profound impact. As I mentioned to you before, a lot of, clients would come to us asking for a variety of different means of support: social media, build a website, run a digital marketing campaign, paid media, content strategy. Those are all tactics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've done a lot of great work with that. But what I realized was so essential to that is no matter what tactics you're doing and you're using, if you don't have your story and your message right,
Mm-hmm.
none of that really matters, or it's diminished returns.
Yeah.
So that that moment in time, that inflection for me, I was not a great practitioner of my own craft. It's like the barefoot cobbler, right?
Yeah.
Which I think happens in a lot of our businesses.
Yeah.
Um, I had to I was forced to sit with it and take the time and do the work and put my head down for me and for us, first and foremost. And what that really started with having that core purpose, that why, building a really comprehensive brand message,
Mm-hmm.
and story and identity around that, and then going sequentially throughout the rest of those stages. So for me, it became the sequencing of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, we need you to run a social media campaign. We need more leads. We need more site traffic." I say, let's pump the brakes for a second. And we ask them really foundational questions. Okay, well, why do you need to achieve that? And what have you done before? And more importantly, what is the message you want to get through those channels? So I think the biggest thing that changed for me was the sequencing, understanding that you have to have your core identity clear, concise, and compelling first before you get into any of the other marketing tactics.
Does that include personal branding for the founder or the entrepreneur that's running that business?
It usually goes hand in hand, quite frankly. Whether it's initially or later on down the road, I find a lot of leaders understand that they need to show up on a more humanized and personal level today. And so building their personal brand is just as essential as the business and sometimes more. They're the figurehead of the business. And so, yeah, I do think that your personal purpose and why should be imbued in the business that you are running, but it's also a listening game. It shouldn't be yours and yours alone.
Yeah,
Take stock of what your team members, your stakeholders, your customers are saying about you, right?
yeah,
So that you have an objective insight, and then you really need to kind of collaborate and meet in the middle, right? So if you're positioning, you feel like you want to position one way, your audience expects another way. How do we kind of coalesce the two together? So building, yeah, I think building any brand and business needs to start with personal development first before you get into the professional development.
yeah,
Not a lot of people do that or are willing to go there and be vulnerable. But if you do, I've seen it, and I promise you, it is going to be a lot more enjoyable of a ride and a successful ride.
yeah. I do find that like in general, the consensus of like startups or founders is that, like they sort of follow the playbook of business. Usually founders are inventors. They have like a business idea or a product idea. They're not necessarily like marketing people. So when they start the whole marketing journey, it's not necessarily organized or concise with a message. So what advice do you have for someone who's like in those early stages so that they can start setting up their marketing in the right way versus starting it all over the place and then having to fix it later down the road?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, first of all, have a blueprint, have a clear plan in place, but make sure that that blueprint and any of those marketing strategies start with a very clear, comprehensive understanding of your identity and positioning as a business and a brand. And I know that sounds simplistic, but a lot of
A
people
little,
kind of
just a little.
I mean it does, but the work that goes into it, it takes time. I mean, to do it the right way. Um, a lot of clients will push back and say, no, I just need to get to that immediate gratification, those immediate results. I don't have
Yeah,
time to do the messaging and kind of the core work. Well, you're going to eventually need to come back to it at some point. Um, I'm talking everything from, not only your brand core, mission, vision, values, reasons to believe, but also understanding, audience personas and archetypes, your competition, gap analysis, um, uh, value proposition, market positioning, all those things I do think are part of brand identity, doing that research, doing that work, doing that refinement, so that you've got a really kind of rock solid approach to then go take on whatever marketing tactics you're interested in. So I mean that that's what I would say needs to come first. Not a lot of people like to invest the time and energy in it first.
yeah,
They punt it down the road because they need that immediate win. But we all see it. We see these quick fix, 10x your leads, 10x your revenue.
yeah,
Those are short-term band-aids to longer-term problems.
yeah. I know I agree with you. So you believe in the power of business to do good and do well. Can you share a success story where a client transformed their business model to better align with their purpose and the measurable impact it had on their success?
Yeah, great question. Um, so there's a variety of clients that I've worked with that had a decent amount of success that felt stuck when we started working together.
Mhm.
Weren't able to get to that next sort of echelon, that next level, until we really kind of revitalized and refreshed that identity and that purpose. And I'll tell you, qualitatively, it re-engaged the team, the owner, the CEO into the company again. They were feeling kind of more burdened by running the day-to-day operations, and it felt more inspired. So that just kind of was uplifting in and of itself. And it continued to inspire a whole new approach they took to marketing, having previously spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in traditional media spend.
Mm,
We took an almost entirely organic approach to just good, inspired storytelling and content strategy, like you talked about. And they had, I would at least over 100% increase ROI compared to the traditional paid tactics of paid social and PPC and things like that. It completely changed the game for them. Not only were they spending less on marketing, but they were earning more as a result of that. And over a period of 6 to 12 months, they were seeing their customer lifetime, value start to kind of tick up as well, building greater brand loyalty. So it wasn't just direct response style, it was sending out a message and resonating with their customers on a deeper level. I mean, you take any company like obviously Patagonia, you even take Salesforce, you even look at on the
yeah.
surface, they're an incredible leader in reinvesting in their team, their community, their workforce, underserved communities, and they are a multi-billion-dollar company. Yes, they've got a wonderful product, but I don't think where they would be where they are today
Yeah.
without that initial foundational commitment to, as I like to kind of say, do good to do well.
Does that change from B2C to B2B?
Um, I don't think it does. I think any business or brand, big or small, B2B, B2C, B2G, needs to have that kind of compelling purpose. We're in this really interesting time right now where, you know, it's no longer shareholder driven, it's stakeholder driven.
Yeah.
And this sort of conscious capitalism sort of generation where
Yeah.
consumers are a lot more intentional, a lot more enlightened, and a lot more demanding of, and rightfully so, of the businesses and brands that they support. And the statistics are overwhelming. People are 3 to 4 times more likely to support and endorse and purchase from a brand that has a clearly aligned set of purpose and values than one who doesn't, right? So in this world of this quote unquote, sea of sameness, like you said earlier, a lot of businesses are chasing the tried and true tactics or what their competitors are doing and what they think they should do. They're just playing the same game in the same sandbox and fighting for scraps, versus those that are willing to take a stand, um, to really do good, do well for whether it's their own team, their community, the world at large. People are willing to pay more for those products and services, B2B or B2C.
Hmm.
More people want to work for those companies. So the top talent wants to go work for those companies. And you talk about companies spending millions of dollars a year in churn and retention and onboarding. And more people and more investors want to invest in those sorts of companies. So across the board, there is a significant ROI in doing
Hmm.
good. This brand, as I like to say, brand purpose drives business growth. And
Yeah.
that's still a relatively new and novel concept. And a lot of people kind of, roll their eyes or think they can check a box and be done with it. But this is the tip of the spear. This is not going anywhere. It's already, like I said, the data is already compelling today.
Yeah.
Not to mention when more of Gen Z enters the workforce and beyond, even more big or even bigger advocates of those values and holding companies accountable to live up to those standards.
Okay. So, everything that you're saying, I totally understand, but let's get into some scenarios, like real life scenarios. So, when it comes to marketing, there's things like Google Pay Ads,
Mhm.
SEO, social media, ads and things like that. But let's just say I'm a startup and I
Yeah.
have a competitor. My product is unique in its own way. I don't have the budget that my competitor who's been around for a long time has. What are some things that I can think about doing that are first off going to be affordable and that are
Yeah.
going to at least help me get my name, out there? What are some suggestions that you have for that?
Yeah. Truthfully, a lot of the clients I work with are in the same scenario.
So I'm glad I asked the
Many,
question.
yeah, no, many of them don't have. I mean, yes, we've worked with larger companies, but I prefer working with, SMBs that don't have large budgets, that don't have huge marketing teams or marketing teams at all. I think
Mhm.
the easiest thing that you can do to build brand awareness, brand trust, brand equity, is again through content and content marketing. Again, I'm a little biased. I come from a storytelling discipline, but
Yeah,
when done right and done authentically, storytelling is the greatest tool we have, in humanity, let alone branding and marketing. The ability to impact people, the way they feel, the way they think, the way they buy, the way they behave, the way they act. So brand storytelling to me is kind of the key. It doesn't cost much. You can
yeah,
do that on a video, a selfie. You can write blogs. You can, put any number of pieces of content out there into the mix, and build your tribe accordingly. So I think that's one relatively inexpensive way to do it. It takes time, right? It's a
yeah.
marathon, it's not a sprint. But in the long haul, and there's data to support this as well, is content marketing vastly outperforms in terms of ROI and return on ad spend, anything you can do in terms of paid social, PPC, SEO. So if you're willing to commit to it, great content. Tell great stories is what I would say.
Can companies utilize AI to help them with some of that SEO strategies and things like that?
You can. AI is becoming really powerful in terms of what it can do. I would caution to say, don't lose that human element.
Yeah,
AI is great for a first look, a first draft, a first pass, but make sure you're putting your flavor into it. AI can't incorporate previous wins or case studies that you've done.
yeah.
AI can't, well, I mean, to personalize it to your unique business.
Hmm.
Um, it can't put that personal experience that you've gone to into a blog post.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's great and needed to keep up with the pace that we're expected to produce content to stay in the game. I think you need that assist, but making sure that you are continuing to, um, well, align all of it against that central purpose and why, and putting your own voice and not being afraid to be vulnerable. I think the best content out there today is the stuff that's disruptive and positively so, not
yeah,
your cookie cutter template graphic, reading a script on video, the stuff that is flawed or honest or, don't just post the wins, post the losses as
yeah.
well. When you hit rock bottom.
A couple years ago, actually many years ago, we didn't have things like social media. We didn't have things like Google paid ads. We had yellow pages and different things.
Yeah.
So the world is it evolves, it changes. Where do you see marketing in the like in like the next 10, 15 years, and how can companies prepare themselves for the changes that are coming? I mean, I know Google is going to be making changes to their ads. Things are already starting to shift. How
Definitely.
can companies prepare for that?
Um, it's kind of like an investment portfolio, diversify your
Mm,
efforts, right?
yeah,
I think that's something that you constantly need to do. The two of the top keys in building a successful business are marketing and innovation. And I think they go hand in hand. So don't just innovate on your business model, your products, your services, innovate on your marketing strategies.
right,
Um, there's a great sort of, concept and theory around category positioning, or category, building. So no longer looking at how do we play in this particular market or niche, this crowded space. How do we create our own kind of blue ocean, our
mm,
own unique category that we can be the leader in, that we can build a tribe and a trusted community around. So in regards to marketing, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say that something that's not going away, like I mentioned, is good storytelling. I don't think it's ever going away. It's been with us since the dawn of time.
yeah,
Um, I can't predict what Google is going to do to their algorithms or social media. I can tell you in the last 10 years, they've become increasingly and drastically less effective as
Yeah.
tools. Um, Higher CPMs and lower click rates and higher cost per clicks. So let's not continue to be beholden to them until they completely bottom out. Let's think strategically. I think another great way to do this is either public and private partnerships or for-profit and nonprofit partnerships. We work with a lot of nonprofits who need the savvy and the support from, a for-profit business and vice versa. Those for-profit businesses that want to do good and do well, the pressure doesn't have to be all on your shoulders. Partner with someone in your community, a nonprofit that's already doing this and has a built-in track record and his boots on the ground. I think those sort of partnerships can elevate each other significantly. And it doesn't take marketing spend. It doesn't take, PPC and social. I mean, yes, those are components that should be nurtured. But when one plus one can equal three if you're
Yeah.
combining gaps and needs on both sides of the fence. So I think that's something that I'd love to see more of. And again, I think we're going to have to see more of moving forward.
I like that. You're basically saying don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket and don't feel like you have to go it alone.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a big proponent of, most of my business has been referral and word of mouth, thankfully.
Mm,
That can be a bit of a roller coaster at times, but having referral strategies, or if you want to call it affiliate model marketing,
okay.
I think can be really effective. Referral strategies, thinking of who is tangentially aligned to my business that may have a similar sort of customer or audience that doesn't do what I do, right?
Mm,
For us, maybe it's a CFO, maybe it's a COO, maybe it's a life coach, or any number of things that work with a business or a business owner, and they support them in a certain capacity. But hey, we don't do branding and marketing. We know that you do.
hmm
Uh, let's kind of understand how we can kind of all help each other. That reciprocal effect, I think, is really, really powerful. And again, it doesn't take any investment or funds or marketing. Sure, if you want to kind of give a rev share or a kickback, that's great. But I always find that working with clients that I at least have a familiarity with, 1 or 2 or even 3 degrees from,
Yeah.
is often a better client for us than something from cold, outreach, interruptive marketing.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a better way to start a relationship, I feel.
Just thinking as you're saying this, like I have a competitor for one of our products, and as much research as we try to do on what they're doing, we can never find their presence online. So now that I'm listening to you, I'm like, they're probably just working off of like referrals, and they're doing really well because they had the market for a very long time before competitors came along, but that's
Sure.
probably how they're operating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I would be surprised if they weren't leveraging some sort of referral program with
Yeah.
with partners, whether it's incentivizing their current customers to refer people or other tangential businesses, like take professional services. We work with an accounting firm. They, through partnerships and outreach to law firms or even other bookkeepers, other professional services, there's a complementary effect.
hmm
Um, Instead of trying to go out big game hunting yourself, do within a tribe. And it's reciprocal and everyone can win that way.
One of the things that I always love to talk about on the Tenacity podcast is failures. I feel like everyone sort of focuses on, oh, look at my business, it's done so well, go, go, go. But I like to talk about the failures because that's when you're really, I feel like that's when you really, really learn and grow. So facing failures and setbacks is part of any entrepreneur journey. Can you share a moment of failure in your career, what you learned from it, and how it helped you grow personally and professionally?
Sure. I agree with you about failures, and I think they're just as important, if not more so, than wins. I already shared with you that I went through kind of that difficult season with the business
Yeah.
about a little over a year ago. And I was determined at the time to, first of all, personally, it reshaped me. It made me more resilient as a leader, as a person, to dig a bit deeper and understand what I wanted out of life and business. Um, and you know, I decided instead of doing, just immediate layoffs like bigger companies will do,
Mhm.
I decided to try and kind of carry the team as long as I possibly could, to honor their loyalty, and we've worked together for some time, dipped into kind of personal funds and savings, etc. And I think at the time it was honoring and wanted to do what's best for my team, even at my own detriment, financial detriment. And I also thought that I had to continue to think in that growth mindset. Well, if I'm not growing, I'm failing. And every business is different. And I've come to realize, and I'm still realizing, that success doesn't necessarily mean continual growth and scale,
Mhm.
right? Maybe I'm better suited steering a smaller, more agile, nimble ship than something big with a lot of overhead and a lot of maintenance. And so, unfortunately, we did have to consolidate and downsize our team significantly at a certain point. At the point where I can only carry it thus so far. And I beat myself up over it, and I still do, because I sometimes care about others more than myself.
Yeah.
But I'm understanding, I feel so much more liberated and free and fulfilled, really working more intimately. And that's evolved from running a business, which, the agency we still do, to being to allocate more of my time in one-on-one brand coaching, business consulting, which
Mm.
is kind of where I got into it in the first place. But I had to go through that season and relinquish that control and saying, well, if I'm not building my team, I'm not keeping up with the competition, and we're not kind of growing at all costs, and look in the mirror and understand, I don't think I'm built to be that sort of entrepreneur or business. I never aspired to be a billion-dollar company or organization. There's plenty of people out there that are.
Mhm.
That's not in me. So I had to kind of get real and face the facts that I would be better served by being leaner, more agile, and a little more independent.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. At least you learned from that mistake and you didn't continue trying to chase something that obviously wasn't going to serve you because that's not really what you wanted, right?
Yeah, it'd be miserable. I mean, look, it's easy to set goals, and we have, hey, I want to reach, seven figures by the end of the year, and I want to have this many new people on my team onboarded and this new clients. But if you stop to ask yourself why this goal or that goal,
Mm.
then you start to unpack it. Yeah, those goals sound great. Let's hit them. But there's like this overwhelm that comes with that
Mhm.
pressure to meet those goals. And if you don't, you fail. Well, that's why do I need to make this certain amount of money? Why do we have to build a company to this size? Why do we need X amount of clients to feel successful versus understanding how to find how to find a little more work-life balance.
Yeah.
I've got two young children. Like I don't want to look back in 10 years and say, sure, I met my financial goals, but I didn't meet any of my
Personal.
family personal goals, and I wasn't there for my kids.
Yeah.
So I had to make those decisions, and I'm in this kind of season of what I call surrender. It's kind of a word that I would have never considered using before, because in business, it's like you give up, you let go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think it's framed intentionally. It's important not having to have that firm vice grip over everything.
Hmm.
Surrender, trust the process, do what you feel is right, the right way, with the right clients. And I do believe that you will continue to find that balance.
I love that. I mean, it sounds to me like it gave you a lot of peace of mind as well.
Still working on that. It's a daily affair, but yeah, it's peace of mind. It's being in flow with the work, which is
Mhm.
rare and unique. When you're doing something that doesn't feel like work, when you're running a business, you're working on the business. and it's
Yeah.
less of the stuff that why you started in the first place. So yeah, more flow, more peace of mind. Um, is it as crazy lofty, revenue targets as it once was? No, probably not, but I like that as a challenge and seeing how I can continue to kind of grow and scale within my own means that won't lead to, burnout or worse.
Yeah. Sounds like you found a really good balance.
Again, trying, trying, I don't think there's ever reaching
Uh,
there. It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like when you reach the summit, where is it? I think it's a lifelong journey and a lifelong process, but certainly more mindful that I need to listen and honor my personal needs and professional, and not get caught up in perception and kind of the rat race of, well, I've got a friend over here and a business over here that's crushing it. Why am I not? Well, for me in my world, in my reality, I'm doing the best that I can, and that is okay, and that is enough.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because like I just recently did another episode with a couple of other people and this is like a theme that I'm seeing. All these people that I'm interviewing that have been there and done it are sort of all saying the same thing. But if I bring on someone who's younger, they're all about like the hustle culture, and that's sort of like what people are.
Yeah.
The younger generation is expressing, oh, you gotta hustle, you'll rest when you die, and things like that. But now I'm like talking to people who've been there and done it, and they're like, no, 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 like I need 8 hours of sleep, and I need to spend time with my family, and that all that money is not going to bring me fulfillment and happiness, and like they're really finding their ground, and I love that.
Amen. I think it's important. I think there is a season of
Yeah,
life and there's a season of each year where that hustle, grind mindset is okay and is applicable.
yeah,
I'm not saying don't do that. I've been through those seasons. And arguably it's gotten me to where I am. But I also know, looking back, that it's led to burnout and stress and overwhelm and a lot of detrimental effects. And getting to the point of surrendering and saying it's okay to not feel like you have to hustle and grind all the time 24/7. I don't think that's healthy for anybody. A lot of it is the culture that we're in, and the times that we're in, but it's great to hear that people are taking a step back and taking stock of their lives. And that's why I love the idea of how can you channel your passion or your purpose into profit, into business? Because if you can have both,
yeah,
then how liberating. Then you're going to be inspired and want to and actually
yeah.
enjoy that hustle because it's something that you believe in.
Yeah. I have one final question for you. Um, for our audience of aspiring entrepreneurs who are passionate about making a difference, what
Mm.
advice would you give them as they embark on their journey to balance profit with purpose and make a lasting impact?
Mm. Again, have that kind of core foundation strong, have that blueprint of identity, why we exist as a business, how we're uniquely differentiated, what we want to deliver to make good on that promise. I would say don't feel like you have to go it alone. And that's probably
Mm,
one of my failures as well, is thinking I had to be the one and only and have all the answers all the time. I wished earlier on in my career I reached out and sought help and more mentorship and coaching. I think there's so much value and strength in talking with other people, learning from their mistakes. So, and in terms of integrating your purpose, again, don't feel overwhelmed by it. That doesn't mean save the world. You have to save the world
yeah.
or end social injustice or don't feel like you have to bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
Do something that feels important and yet approachable. That could be in your own family and household. It could be certainly within your own team that you're building, your own community, and scale it from there. I see a lot of people get overwhelmed with my purpose. Well, what does that mean and how do I get there? They think it needs to be this world-changing, life-saving epiphany, and it
Mhm.
doesn't. It just needs to mean something to you. And more importantly, something that you don't just talk the talk, but you can walk it as well.
That is such a great way to end this episode. I love everything that you said because that's exactly why I launched this podcast. I wanted, people who are trying to do what you've done to have maybe they're lonely, maybe they don't have mentors and they don't know which direction to go. But here, start with a podcast and learn from people who have been there and done it so that you can, eventually find people you can talk to, but at least fill some of those voids at an early stage. So love everything that you're saying. Thank you so much, Chase, for coming on this episode. I loved everything that you said. I think our audience is going to really, really enjoy it. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you for this platform. This is exactly what you said is so important. I wish I had this some years ago. But yeah, we got to pay it forward, right? So thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to extend a thank you to Chase for joining us today. Chase's journey and dedication to blending profit with purpose offers a powerful blueprint for entrepreneurs and leaders striving to make a difference. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.